Let us make him man in our image. What was God's purpose in making man then?
Making him his image.
What?
Making him as his image. No.
Okay, but let's go beyond that. Man was to be God's image. What was the purpose of God in making man in his own image?
It would be like him.
Be like him. Was there a need for that in the universe? Was there a need for a revelation of the true character of God?
I'd say yes.
We have to say yes. God's purpose was to make man in his own image. Now, what does the second commandment say? What does the second commandment say?
Make no images.
Make no images. But God made an image, didn't he? But God said, don't bow down to what?
The
Idols.
Images. Yet we are to be a what? An image, a revelation of Jesus Christ. And this tells us that while we are to be an image of Jesus Christ, we are not to worship any image, including what? Man. Our purpose is to be a revelation of God, and that precludes anything coming between us and God. So what we are to do in our church administration, we are as much as possible to be a revelation of God. Now, is there order in heaven?
Yes.
Yes.
The first law of the universe.
The first law of the universe is what?
Order.
Order. How do we have order in our churches?
Little bit.
What?
We have only a little bit.
Only a little bit. Why do we have only a little bit?
No.
What is the reason we don't have more order in our churches?
Because there's not enough order in the family.
That's a general rule, yes. If we have better priorities, would we have better order?
Yes.
So what do we need in our families, in our own lives? We need to have what? Priorities. And what is the first priority besides order? What is the first priority? What is the objective? What is the true objective of our Christian experience and the church? Someone will say what? Go to heaven, right? Is that the objective? I'm going to say it is not the objective. Going to heaven is not the objective. What is the objective is heaven in us. That is the objective. Our objective is not to get to heaven. I like to tell people, if God wants me in heaven, let him park that chariot right out there. I'll go now. Just like Elijah, right? So my next statement is, it is not what God does with us. It is what we're doing with God. What he does with us is his business. What we do with him is our business. So what is the primary objective? Let's keep it clear. Let's keep it clear. The primary objective is a revelation of Jesus Christ in human form. That is the objective. If we have that, the other things will take care of themselves, will they not?
Amen.
So we take care of what we can take care of. So, if you want to be a better leader, and we'll talk more about this later, but we have to take care of what God has given us. Now, let's talk about church administration. Why don't we have more administration? Better administration? It's because we do not do more planning. Prioritizing, planning. We need to better plan our meetings. Everyone in the meeting needs to be told ahead of time what's going on. Why do we have people whispering in the front of the church and talking, and people walking up and taking care of things in the church? Why do we have this? Because they don't plan. But in order to plan, what do we need to do? What do we have better to do? I'll tell you, the one major thing we need to do, we need to have better relationships with our fellow workers. We need to work on our personal relationships within the church. We need to build relationships. problem is, we have many different people, many different departments to take care of within the church, and how do we coordinate these things? This is a difficulty for us sometimes. I'll tell you the secret. The secret is momentum. Momentum. How do you get momentum? Can you change the direction of a ship if it's not moving? No, you cannot. You have to have movement. What are we called? We're called the Seventh-day Adventist what? Reform movement. We must have movement. How do you get movement? We're interested in stopping things instead of keeping them going. We need to have a positive outlook. And to do that, I tell you what you need to do. You find 2 or 3 other people you can work with. If you find the right 2 or 3 people, and you want to find people who have energy, people who want to do something, you look around your congregation and find those who want to do something, and you get them together. If you can get 3 people together, the whole church will follow. So we need to work on, you need to work on finding those 2 or 3 people who will support you and you will support. And if you have any differences with them, you make sure that those are private. You never bring personal differences in the public. Never. If you go to a meeting and you have 2 other people that are on your side and you know what you want to do, you know what will happen? The whole church will follow. What did Jesus do? Let's look at Jesus' example. He had 12 disciples. Were they all united?
No.
Did they fight about different things?
Yes.
Did they have problems?
Yes.
Were they converted? No. What did Jesus say to Peter? Matthew 16. When you're converted, what? Strengthen your brother. Was he baptized? We don't know for sure, but probably most likely. I think so, right? Was he ordained as a minister already? Did God breathe on him? Did Jesus breathe on him? He was converted. He was a minister. But what did Jesus tell him? When you're converted, strengthen your brother. When you look at Solomon, I can't remember the text now. When the Queen of Sheba came to visit him, what does the Bible say about her? And her view of Solomon's court. What does she say? It says,
Blessed are those that are with you here.
Her breath was taken away.
Mm-hmm.
Her breath was taken away. Why does the Bible say that? Because when she saw the order in his court, here she is, the Queen of Sheba. She is a person of order. But when she saw Solomon and his order, she was amazed. It says her breath was taken away. Why? Because everyone knew exactly what they were going to do, when they needed to do it, and there was no, you do this and you do that, hollering around and taking care of those kinds of things. Everyone knew what they were supposed to do. So, where do we begin? I'm going to summarize, and then we'll talk about some specifics. What is the objective? Do you have an objective in your church administration? What are you going to accomplish? The objective of this course, and it all, is a revelation of Jesus Christ. Secondly, when you have people who will join with you and work with you, and these are some of the important people in the church, then other people will follow. And make sure that you do not have your disagreements and your differences in public. Avoid that at all costs. Even if you have to swallow your pride or whatever, try to avoid that. I've made many mistakes in that area. Sorry, Lord, help me to do better in the future. Not to have personal differences in the meeting. All right, now. In us to have better meetings and better church administration, we need to have each department have certain objectives, and we need to work those out in a orderly way so that everyone can have a part in doing their responsibilities. So when we think about the different departments, coming back to the principle, what is the objective? All right, let's think about one department. What department do you want to think about in the church where you have maybe some difficulties? What department would you like to think about?
Youth.
Youth department. Yeah, I think the youth department is about the most important. Right? So the first principle is we need to have order. Second is we need to know where we're going, right? So what do you do with the youth department? Write, in your mind, write the report you want to give to the church at the next election. That's where you need to begin. Begin with the what?
With the end in mind.
With the end in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Begin with the end in mind and work backwards from there for each department. So the youth department. What do you want to be able to say happened during the year for the youth department? We had so many outings, we had so many choir practices, we had so many Bible studies, or whatever it might be.
The most important, we had so many young people that accepted Christ and were baptized.
That's it. So begin with the end in view. That is the most important thing that you need to do. Begin with the end in view. So what is the third thing you need to do? What do you think? What's the third thing you need to do in this case?
The first was begin with the mind. What are the first two?
Well, we talked about order.
Order, okay, order, we got order.
All right?
Then, two is planning, or order is part of planning.
The two is know where you're going.
Okay, that's a plan.
Objective. What is the objective?
Yeah.
But even before all this, we need to be positive. We need to stay positive. Look for the possibilities, not for the problems. But the number 3 is find out where you're at. You need to know where you are. You need to analyze what resources
Your
you have.
starting point. Okay.
You need to start where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to go somewhere, you need to have an address, don't you? Don't you need to have an address? You need to know where you're going. But if you don't know where you are, how are you going to get there?
That's right.
You can't get there if you don't know where you are. So you have to take resources and stay positive all the way along. Use what you have. What did God say to Moses? What is in your hand? When they came to Marah, remember the bitter waters of Marah? What did God tell Moses to do? What did God tell Moses to do? What did God tell Moses to do?
Cut a tree.
Where was that tree?
Must have been near them.
Must have been there. How long had it been there?
I don't know, years.
Years. So the waters were bitter. They'd been bitter for years, and the solution was where?
Right there.
Right there. All that time it was right there. So when we think about what we need, what do we usually do? Oh, we don't have this and we don't have that. Go to the general conference. I remember there was an offering taken in Zambia one time. And I wasn't there, the missionary. They took an offering and from all the people. And then the missionary asked the man who gathered the offering, how much did the offering amount to? Well, it was so much money in their currency. What are you going to do with that? I think we have enough money to buy a stamp and write the general conference for help. What? Okay, thank you. All right, so The third thing we need to do in any administrative issue is to what?
Know where you are.
Know where you are. Let's take a verse, one of my favorite verses, Matthew 13, verse 12. It says, to him that hath shall be given. To him that hath not shall be taken away even that which he hath. Matthew 13, verse 12. It says, for whomsoever hath, to him it shall be given, and he shall have more abundance. But whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away even that he hath. I mentioned this to one minister one time in one country. You know what he said? I'm never going to ask another thing in any delegates meeting. Because he realized that what you don't have, you're going to have more of. So we need to give attention to what we have, and what happens with that? It will grow. So when you come to the delegates meetings, what are you going to hear? We don't have this, we don't have that, we need a worker, we need more money, we need to have this, we need to have the other thing. What does the verse tell us? To him that hath shall be given, to him that hath not shall be taken away even that which he hath. What's my last name?
What?
Okay? There are two things about what's that I like, or one I like and one I don't. What's right and what's wrong.
And watts is a measure of electricity.
Okay, that's the good part. So, what's right? When we spend our time on what is right, what happens? What?
Prosper.
We create energy. We create energy when we spend our time on what's right. Because we're using the intuitive part of our brains, and we actually create energy. What happens when we spend our time on what's wrong? We use our analytical part of our brains, and we go home and we say, oh, I am so tired. I didn't do anything today but deal with problems. It uses energy. What's wrong mentality uses energy. By the way, one man got a Nobel Prize for that idea.
For what?
A Nobel Prize.
Nobel Prize for?
For the idea, the understanding, that when we concentrate on possibilities, we increase our energy. When we concentrate on our problems, we use our energy. So the very first principle or habit of successful people is to be positive. What is the 10th commandment? Thou shalt not covet. That principle behind that is the power of positive thinking. It's the power of concentrating on what you have and what you don't have. And my last 30 seconds will tell you the most important thing. We lead by influence. And your influence grows when you dwell upon what you have. And it diminishes when you consider or dwell upon what you don't have. That principle, that verse, is mentioned 5 times by Jesus Christ. And in 2 parables, it is the principle of it. So he mentioned it more than any other thing. So if you remember anything from this lecture at all, is what you think about is going to affect the results. And if you're thinking positive, what the possibilities are, it will grow. The energy and power will grow. If you think about what the problems are, what the difficulties are, you diminish your possibilities. So may the Lord help us to know that He's the God of possibilities. By the way, there is no word problem in the Bible. The word God is not a God of problems. He's a God of solutions. And He wants us to be solutions. He's calling us to be a solution, not a problem. May the Lord help us in our church administration. We can learn from these things. We'll talk more about this leadership principles when we get there. But I mentioned some of them already. So God bless you. and we can talk more about specifics even in the literature. Thank you for your attention. God bless.
Thank you, sir.
Let's pray. Father in heaven, we bow before your throne again and thank you for this time together. We thank you that you believed in us. Help us to believe in it and encourage one another. In Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.